What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be talking about microtransactions in Call of Duty, more specifically relating to my new concerns with microtransactions when it comes to Modern Warfare, based on an investor call yesterday with Activision. Now, for those of you guys that have been around the channel, especially my Modern Warfare videos for the past several months, you'll know that currently one of my biggest concerns is how they're going to end up handling microtransactions in the future for Modern Warfare. Not talking about immediately at launch, it's more so what happens down the road, especially after Christmas. Now, the reason I've been so concerned is how they've handled things in Black Ops 4. Black Ops 4, I feel, actually launched in a much better state than it's currently in now, and the game has been progressively getting worse and worse as time goes on. And part of that is gameplay related, but another huge part of that is how they've been handling their microtransaction system. Initially, it started out in a way that I felt was actually pretty fair. You had the tiers that you would grind through each season, and when you got to the end of the tiers for the season, you would get a new weapon. So if you wanted to, you could straight up buy those tiers and therefore straight up buy those weapons, or you could put the time in and unlock those weapons. So in my opinion, that was just fine as far as a way to introduce new weapons into the game. However, several months ago now, they stopped with that system and they started putting weapons in reserves, and what that means is there is no longer a direct method of earning a specific gun. So instead of giving us a direct method to earn all of the guns that they're adding into the game, with an event, they'll add 2 to 3 weapons into reserves, and then they'll give you one ultra weapon bribe that will guarantee that you'll get a gun that you don't have. But the clear problem here is now there is no reasonable way to directly earn all of the guns that are added to the game, and the only reasonable way for the people that don't play the game 8 hours a day is to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on supply drops to hopefully get one of those guns. This is a huge problem, especially because this is a full-priced game. This isn't a free-to-play title. You already have that big upfront cost of buying the game, plus we had the season pass. It was a major flop this year as well in Black Ops 4. And on top of that, if you want all of the playable content in the game, I'm not just talking about cosmetics, I'm talking about actual playable gameplay experiences, you're going to have to pile many hundreds of dollars on top of that. So when it comes to microtransactions this year with Black Ops 4, I honestly think this is the worst system we've had so far, and it was a major step backwards. With Infinite Warfare and COD World War II, as well as Modern Warfare Remastered, we did have very reasonable systems in place to be able to earn every single post-launch weapon that was added to the game. As long as you played the game at least a half-decent amount, you should have had no problem whatsoever getting every gun that was added to the game. And that was refreshing because Treyarch's previous title, Black Ops 3, also had a pretty horrible system where you had to rely on luck or buying a bunch of supply drops to get every single weapon in the game. So while I have remained pretty skeptical and a little bit worried about Modern Warfare, at the same time, there has been a general pattern where Treyarch seems to be the studio that hits us the hardest and has the worst systems, whereas Infinity Ward's last title, Infinite Warfare, it actually had a pretty fair microtransaction system in my opinion. So based on that pattern, while I still was very skeptical, I was also kind of relieved to see that microtransaction-wise, it's Infinity Ward's turn, and they've got a pretty good track record so far. However, with this investor call that happened yesterday, we got some news on just how much money they have been making post-launch, and Activision across all of their franchises in just the past 3 months. We're not talking about the entire year, but just the past 3 months, they have made $800 million in post-launch sales on their games. And Call of Duty is a huge part of this as well. It's not all from Call of Duty, but a very large chunk of that would be from Call of Duty. In fact, they actually went on to talk specifically about Black Ops 4, and they stated that their new initiatives, that is, adding these weapons into reserves and locking them behind supply drops, have led to stronger engagement in the community, and that they've seen higher microtransaction revenues from Black Ops 4 than they had last year with COD World War II, which, if I'm not mistaken, COD World War II actually sold better at launch, and that's really saying something about how effective it is for them to put these weapons in supply drops and have a super unfair system for their consumers. Furthermore, in the call, and this is the part that really hurts, is Activision said that the communities are embracing the new in-game content in Call of Duty, and they're excited about what's to come. This is extremely frustrating to see, because when it comes to the online communities that are actually actively discussing the game, we're talking Twitter and Reddit and YouTube, the vast majority of us within these communities absolutely despise this system, and we speak out against it all the time. And many of us have been completely boycotting this system, and yet it doesn't really seem to matter. It seems like we're just a vocal minority here, and the money doesn't lie. The numbers seem to indicate that it doesn't matter what we as the vocal minority think, and it does confirm my suspicion that the vast majority of casual players that don't go online to talk about the game or anything, just the average person out there that plays Call of Duty on their TV after a long day of work or something, those are the people that engage in these microtransactions. They spend a ton of money on this stuff, and they don't really seem to care about how this impacts the game in the long run, and how the trends indicate that they're just going to continue adding gameplay experiences and locking them behind a luck wall that you have to spend potentially hundreds of dollars to experience. This is what's really concerning me this time around with Modern Warfare, because at the end of the day, Activision is a corporation, it exists to make money for its shareholders, and it seems like they're doing their job very, very well here, regardless of how many people are speaking out against this and boycotting this. Now, to be clear, I don't mind them having a fair post-launch system that makes a lot of money. I want them to make a lot of money. I want them to succeed. All I'm asking for here is a fair system, and I know that's too much to ask. Of course, they're not just going to give up hundreds of millions of dollars just so they can be fair, but I think this really speaks volumes about the community as a whole, more specifically, the community that isn't very vocal about things. It seems like they just really don't care, and the games are getting worse and worse as a result. So overall, my concern about the microtransactions in Modern Warfare has skyrocketed after this investor call. I am very nervous about what's going to happen down the road with this game, especially because they are dropping the season pass model, and therefore a lot of that revenue that they would have had through the season pass, they're going to have to make that up somehow with post-launch sales, and therefore honestly, I'm expecting this game is going to gouge us more than ever before. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping Infinity Ward will do the best that they can to hold off on this. But at the end of the day, like I said, this is a business and the numbers don't lie. This is one of the main reasons I've been telling people repeatedly to hold off on pre-ordering Call of Duty Modern Warfare. First off, because we don't have all the information yet, so it seems kind of silly to pre-order something and give your money over to a corporation without actually seeing what you're going to get out of that. But also, the more people that pre-order the game, the higher the target they're going to set when it comes to post-launch sales. So by pre-ordering, you're basically indicating to them that you're going to give them money no matter what. And if a lot of people are willing to do that, then they're going to expect more out of you, and they're going to set their targets quite high. So if you guys haven't pre-ordered the game yet, I urge you to hold off for as long as possible. I've always said, I won't blame anybody for pre-ordering in order to get into the beta. Of course, if you want that early access to the beta, I can understand pre-ordering at that point. But with the exception of that, pre-ordering the game can actually hurt the game in the long run, and I don't recommend it at all. Now, one little silver lining to this story is something that we saw a few days ago, and this is Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo have all agreed that in the near future, they're going to require publishers to disclose the odds of earning items in loot boxes. This isn't a huge win, this isn't banning loot boxes completely from games, but this is a small step in the right direction. So I'm hoping this goes through fairly quickly so that Infinity Ward will actually be required to disclose the odds with supply drops within Modern Warfare. Honestly, even if they do, it probably won't affect their sales by a significant amount. I think most people that are buying supply drops don't really care about the odds that much anyways. They just see something they want and they'll throw money at it until they get it. But like I said, this is at least a very small step in the right direction. So overall, the purpose of this video is essentially to warn you guys that you will likely be seeing a horrible microtransaction system at some point with Modern Warfare. Again, just like they do every year, it's probably going to launch really fair, really fine. They want to get as many of those initial sales as possible, all the way up until Christmas. After Christmas is what concerns me the most, and I want you guys to understand fully when you buy this game, it will likely be going downhill when it comes to microtransactions after Christmas time. Again, I'm hoping I'm wrong, but when it comes to those corporate decisions, the only thing that matters is the money. They don't care what their most loyal and dedicated players think. All they care about is how much money it's going to bring in. And with that pretty much wraps it up for today's video. I know, not a really positive or happy video, but this is something that I feel needs to be said, especially before launch and before everybody's getting their pre-orders and everything in. It's really frustrating to see this franchise go in this direction, but it looks like nothing's going to be changing anytime soon. As always, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think about this information that we got in the investor call with Activision? Also, does this affect your purchase decision at all when it comes to Modern Warfare? Is this potentially going to make you rethink your purpose? Just let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.